So tell us about your company, what you do.
So my company is called the Creative Content Agency. In its various incarnations, it's been everything from creating video content for companies. Now, in its current incarnation, it's essentially a billing platform for me to sit on the board of e-commerce companies and advise them on their digital marketing strategy. So working with CEOs to figure out what technology to acquire for marketing purposes.
So before we came to this event, you and I talked a little bit, and you were telling me about how you have been using, kind of tying back to one of our previous talks, events as a way to do marketing and to create a community. Tell me a little bit about that and how that came about.
So my history with events goes back a long time. In 1998, when I was at university, one of the ways that I paid for my undergrad and my postgrad was through throwing parties. So since 98, I've been a DJ using vinyls, so it's an interesting time, much easier now. And before Eventbrite, and I guess this comes down to growth hacking, I used to just walk up to crowds of pretty girls with flyers that I'd print out myself and hand them out and say, hey, listen, come to my event. And I just found that fundamentally at its core, if you're looking at building a business or you're looking at building a brand, whether it be around a business or around yourself, that the more people you can get into a room, the better. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. I feel like if you can get people into a room and you can get people talking and networking, and if you know everybody in the room and you can introduce them to each other, you always become that middle guy. And I think that that's one reason why Eventbrite just does what it does incredibly well. I put Eventbrite up there with Facebook and Twitter in terms of if I was stuck on a desert island somehow freakishly with Wi-Fi, and then that's one of the websites I would need to run my business, whether it be around DJing or around my agency.
So that's interesting. So you rate it as one of the top tools. So what are some of the other tools that you're using? You mentioned Twitter and Facebook. Maybe you can talk about how you're using those. But are there other tools that are maybe more obscure or maybe even people kind of forget about? For example, I know in some of the stuff I do, a lot of things always tie back to email. Everybody thinks email is kind of this dead medium. But email is still a key piece to tie people back, even if it's not just to remind them and just send them the quick way to find the piece of information.
So with my clients, one of them is in B2B, one of them recently was in B2C. I don't think you should underestimate in any way, shape or form how important email is. I was walking through Regent Street last week and I saw a sign on one of the big retail stores there saying, you'll get 15% off your order if you give us your email address today. So I think for most companies in the room, just as a kind of show of hands, small to medium businesses, is it mostly? Is that about right? Freelancers and those kind of folks. You need to use MailChimp because they give you, I think it's like 10,000 sends a month, and you can have an email list of up to 2,000 people, which means that if you do get that email list full, you can ship them pretty much an email a week. So I would absolutely agree with you. I think email is crucially important. Twitter is a great listening tool. So at its fundamental core, whatever business you're in, whatever keywords are around your business, make sure you've got pre-set up searches around that. So I'm putting on an event on December the 12th with Gary Vaynerchuk, who's a leading thinker in social media and digital storytelling. Come get a discount off me. And we are looking at all the people following him, all the people talking to him. And I think it's a great way of figuring out what's going on in the market. And Facebook is just that kind of nice media platform where you can post infographics and witty status updates. And SoundCloud is great for my DJing business as well, just doing pre-mixes and putting them out there.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
So actually, maybe just to get some input from the audience, everyone who's a business owner who's in the room, can you raise your hand? Right.
Around 70%
How
of the
many
room.
people have a business that has more than 10 employees? So everyone here is pretty much small business or even micro. And of the people in the room, how many of you is your business involved selling physical goods, something that you actually people touch? Okay, so and how many would you call yourselves service-based? So it's quite a mix. I mean, I was kind of trying to draw, it sounds like your stuff's quite service-based and digital-based, but I think it's really interesting how there's a lot of interesting businesses that are, in a way, it's almost the best time to be selling physical products because you can be a micro brand but still have a global reach and do interesting stuff. I mean, you have the same experience?
From my point of view, when it comes to selling physical products, it's probably more on behalf of my clients. So one of my clients until recently was one of the largest golfing retailers in the UK, golfonline.co.uk. So they sell a lot of physical goods. But I think I think it's just a great time just to be in business because, you know, with growth hacking, so much stuff is becoming easier and easier. And I think that's a hugely important thing. I mean, there's almost a tool now that can do anything. So if you go back to Twitter, it's very difficult to gauge where the market's at and what the market's doing. And now you've got Twitter where people are openly talking to each other. So that is a great market research tool. To get people to follow you, where you can give them content on a daily basis. Even with email, I would say that's nearly impossible because not everybody wants to hear from you via email every day. But if you've got some engaging content mixed up with if you're looking through Facebook and you've got your friends, you know, your friend's baby and then a funny video and then a message from a brand, that brand may have an option to talk to you every single day because it's in the context of a wider feed of content that you're getting. And with Eventbrite as well, I mean, you know, not to go back to them, but as an event organizer, you have a whole bunch of problems that you need to solve. And I would say that when it comes to growth hacking, anybody who's thinking about growth hacking, which is really just kind of biz dev and finding out shortcuts of ways to do stuff, look at the top 10 things that your business needs and then find the tools that will do them. And I bet you more often than not that 8 of them are being solved by some quirky startup or some more established startup. So to be really specific so that you guys get some value out of this talk, when I want to sell tickets, I want to be able to advertise my event on mobile. I want all the text around my event on mobile. I want to be able to sell the ticket on mobile. So I'll use Eventbrite because they, as a startup or as a company, have already thought about how they are going to help me sell my tickets on mobile. I'll use MailChimp because they have already thought about how they're going to repurpose the email on someone's smartphone and how they're going to display it on someone's desktop. So really look at the kind of dozen things that are really important to your business and that are kind of barriers to you selling effectively, and then find tools that will resolve that. And you'll find that whether you're an accountant or a lawyer or you're in e-commerce or you're a freelancer, that all those problems, the top dozen, I bet about 10 of them will be the same as what I go through, what different folks in the audience go through. And there's a tool set that you can lean on heavily that will resolve those problems for you for very, very cheap. And I guess that's growth hacking, right?
Exactly. I mean, I think you point out a good point there is when you're choosing a tool, you know, either find word of mouth or check out with other businesses. But the other thing is check out and see how good that tool is at marketing your business on your behalf. Because a lot of the growth hacking is, you might have to get a free tool or a cheap to use tool, but if that tool isn't good at getting you the additional reach, that's the where you get that scale effect, right? So you get 10 tweets and then they get retweeted. Same thing with tickets.
There's one thing that people don't think about when it comes to growth hacking, right? Which is that you need to look at growth hacking in a traditional kind of business way. So I've got a couple of business degrees, and not that they're worth that much, but there's a couple of key takeaways, and one of them is proof of concept. So if you can't build a business with a mailing list of 10,000 people, 2,000 people that you can mail once a week, then you might be in the wrong business. You might want to pivot and adjust what you're doing. If you can't get anybody in a room for any reason using Eventbrite, then maybe the reason why you're putting your event together is not the right reason. If you can't get anyone to like your status on Facebook, retweet you on Twitter, then maybe there's something at its core that's wrong. And what I like about this kind of concept of growth hacking is that most of these companies, they're on a freemium model, right? Everyone knows what freemium is. Everyone's kind of aware of that. First part is free, and then when you get to a certain stage, you pay for it. If you cross that line that company set out, it's pretty likely that your concept's been proven. And I really hope that at that stage you'd have made a little bit of money or have some cash flow, or even, fingers crossed, you've got some profit. And then once you start using the premium services of an Eventbrite, then you can, or of MailChimp or of Facebook or whatever it may be, like Facebook's promo advertising, then you've already got some cash flow coming in. So like a specific example, when Chinwag started doing Social Media Week about 3-4 years ago, I was an active DJ. I was doing some corporate work as well. And then I called up people like Shazam, Sony, The Guardian, and I started doing music industry conferences like this. So I would sit here, we'd have these big tech companies, music tech companies, and then I would use Facebook to promote the event, Twitter to promote the event, and then I'd do all my tickets for free on Eventbrite and either pay for it myself or get sponsors to come in. And I would get any sponsor that would sponsor my events, from like a liquor company, like a vodka company, right through to anybody who's selling hardware or whatever it may be. But what I walked away with is, in one case, 192 email addresses, in another case, 300 email addresses, which I can then scour through in my own time and say, actually, who came to my event? And once they've come to your event, Katie was talking about thought leadership and credibility. They see me as the guy on stage. I'm interviewing those people, and then I can just drop them an email afterwards and saying, hey, thanks for coming to my event. I've seen you're doing this in your business. If I can grab a coffee with you, that would be great. And once they've seen you on stage with Shazam, Sony, Last.fm, and all these other people, they'll grab a coffee with you, and then you can ask the all-important question, particularly if you're in the service industry and you're trying to offer a service to someone, which is that, let's say you're somebody who I'm talking to right now, kind of my big question that I was taught in life is just ask, what's keeping you up at night? Like, what are you thinking about? And then that's when you've got to sell something else. As a DJ, when people come up to me in clubs, and I've been DJing for a long time, and the one question I get asked more than anything, just take a guess what question as a DJ you get asked more than anything. Anyone, just shout it out, I'll say it.
What song was that?
What song was that? Do you take requests? More than that.
How did you become a DJ?
How do you become a DJ? More than that. I'll answer it for you. I'll put you out of your misery. Sorry? Did you say you need to settle down?
Can you turn it down?
Can you turn it down? Not at my
That would be
parties.
my
Not at my
question.
parties. The question that people ask more than ever is, what else do you do? So people see you DJing, and no one believes that you DJ full time, and that's because a lot of folks don't DJ full time, right?
Yeah.
So then they say to you, what do you do? And you say, right, well, I've got this creative agency, I've got this, I do events, I do that, and that's kind of your kind of model to get all the advertising and then offer something else. And so that's what I found was quite useful, is you've got to kind of give away with your left hand, take with your right, and that's what these hacking tools allow you to do.
So I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to open up to the audience for some questions before we go to lunch. So you were talking a little bit about broadcasting out stuff or talking on Twitter. So how important is it to also test the tone of your messages? And there's two parts to that. One is, one of the key things about growth hacking is testing things, A/B testing. But sometimes you don't even necessarily have to have a formal test. You can just ad hoc try things. And the second thing is, I think increasingly people's attention is challenged. Therefore, you have to be entertaining, but you also have to be useful. What do you think?
So first thing is A/B testing. B is kind of being entertaining and useful. A/B testing is, I believe, a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you're going to use Twitter, you're not going to stop using it when you stop needing it. So yes, there might be some things that you might communicate wrong, but you can't really always do, let me test it this way, let me test it that way. It's let me test it, let me iterate, let me adjust, and then let me kind of keep making it better. And being kind of hard sell on Facebook and Twitter, I've found as a general rule never works. Being entertaining and putting out the right kind of content and engaging and offering value, that's very Darwinian in my opinion. So I've said before at my conferences that social media and a lot of these growth hacking tools, whether it be email and you've got the option to broadcast to a bunch of people, is if it kind of, again, it just solves itself. Like, if you're an asshole on Twitter, you're going to be more of an asshole because it's going out to hundreds of people. Like, it's like a magnifying glass that makes you bigger than what you are, right? Because it can spread and it can be viral and your audience size becomes big almost in a moment. So the reality is that's a good thing, because if you're actually a nice person who's genuinely looking for customers and genuinely looking to offer your services and add value, then social media is going to take that and it's going to highlight it, because however I talk on Twitter or however you see me talk on this video or here is how I talk in real life. It's how I talk in a pub, in a restaurant, at home. It's just who I am. And so, adapting your voice too much and then going against your DNA, it's not actually the best advice I would give. I would actually probably start inside first and say, actually, what do I want to do? What is the main business that I want to get involved in? What am I passionate about? Can I do this every day? And then use social media to expand that. I call it your kind of 4 a.m. subject. If someone got a bucket of cold water and put it on you at 4 a.m. in the morning and said, if you can talk about that subject, that's probably the business or the service you should be offering. So for me, it's Jay-Z.
That makes sense. So be authentic.
100%.
I think that goes back to Neil's opening talk this morning.
Yeah.
What's your dream? Right. Let's open up to the audience for any questions. Because we have a growth hacker on stage. Questions? Please say your name and your company and your question.
Katie.
This is going to be a shameless plug, isn't it, Katie from Eventbrite? Go on.
Actually, it wasn't. I was just going to say, obviously you've done tons of stuff, and lots of tweets saying, about how cool everyone's finding your comments and stuff. But I was just going to ask if there are any blogs or authors that you've read that inspire you, because you've done a lot of different things.
Everyone got your pens and papers ready for blogs and authors and like kind of shit to read? Gary Vaynerchuk, 100%. He's coming December 12th. Please come and see me, and I will give you a discount for this event. It will change your life. Shameless self-promotion, but I've been doing it for 15 years. If you... Vaynerchuk, so it's Gary.
The
Last
wine
name
guy.
is spelled Vaynerchuk. He'll be talking about what I'm talking about on steroids. Seth Godin, 100%, all day long, yeah? Sethgodin. Another guy who kind of came up with this concept of hacking quite early, Timothy Ferriss, definitely worth checking out. Man, there's so many. Listen, do me a favor, email me, raj@creativecontentagency.com, and I'll email you back a whole bunch of lists. Or go on my Pinterest, Tony Shea, pinterest.com/Raj Kotecha. Some of my favorite thought leaders are on pin boards there, and you can just start watching the main videos that I built my businesses on off the back of that.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Might not need a mic.
Hold on. Yeah, no, it's better to have it on the mic. Everyone can hear it. This is one of our speakers later today.
Hi, I'm Jackie. Good ordering. What do you think about having like multiple Twitter accounts? And should you just tweet exclusively about your kind of business from like that account, and do you like separate your personal kind of tweets?
If the business, so the question is, what do you think about having a separate account, Twitter account for your business and for your personal, right? If the business is a standalone business with its own brand values and ethics and everything else, then yes, of course you need to have a separate one. But the reality is, and I went through this big struggle as well a couple of years ago, if the business is you, then you can have the same Twitter account. So I used to have one DJ, I used to have an account for myself as a DJ. So as a DJ, I'm known as DJ Raj Love Soul because I'm part of a DJ crew called Love Soul DJs, and we play a lot of soul music. But as a kind of, and for use of a better term, exec and consultant, I'm Raj Kotecha. And then after a while, I realized that the reality is if someone Googles you, they're going to see, if they type in Raj Kotecha, they're going to see as much about me as a DJ as they're going to see about me as an exec. So I just merged the two together because my business stems from me. But if you've got like a cake store or, you know, let's say you've got any other business that maybe has staff or has things that are independent of how you live your life, or might not be a great place for you to say, oh my God, I just stood in a puddle, which your business isn't really saying that, then I would say keep the two separate. It's very much a use case thing, but worth thinking about.
Over here. Please just say your name and your company.
My name's Steve. I've got a company. So I'm in social media and I work with a lot of companies that have a limited time and actually money for resources. So, and they're operating in international markets. What would you say to open up multiple Twitter accounts in international markets, or would you say you can still do it from one base? So say London, Germany and Hong Kong, so 3 very different markets really, or 2 similar and 1 different market.
Another very good question. So if you've got a company that operates in different markets, they've got a limited resource for social media, and what would you say about opening up separate Twitter accounts in separate territories? There's a big theme going on at the moment in e-commerce conferences, and that is to do with localization. And a lot of that comes down to overall localization of 2 things, content and proposition. So if your proposition is available in German, so let's say you have a German-skinned website, written in German, everything else, respecting all the cultural values, then yes, your Twitter account should 100% be German. Wherever you can do localized content, that's a good idea. As long as you've got resources on the ground to manage it. And that comes back to your original point at your core, which is that they don't have many resources. And if you're lucky enough to be in a position where you can sit with the board and influence how much resources they can put into it, then it's a worthwhile investment. But a lot of companies still in 2013, heading into 2014, are still not investing enough resources in social media and working with, even if it be freelancers all the way up to kind of agencies that have figured it out completely. And again, it's Darwinian. Those companies have a limited ability to grow and could tumble over unless they get their communication strategy right, particularly in the social world where lots of people are on social networks. Almost everyone has a smartphone, and all of their customers have a voice. If they're not listening and able to engage back, whether it be in a local language or otherwise, then they're going to struggle.
We have time for one more question from the audience.
And then it's lunch.
I get the last question.
Oh, you get the last question? All right, 2 more questions.
I'm Matt Castle from Any Adspace, and my question is, you mentioned various... Oh, hello. You mentioned various different social media platforms, but you didn't touch on LinkedIn. Where do you stand on that?
Honest answer? Should I give the honest answer?
Yeah, go on.
I don't really mess with LinkedIn, to be honest with you. And I don't, I put, you know, if they're in the room or whatever, it's just one of those. Look, the reality is, we've got freelancers in the room, right? We've got small businesses in the room, and that always comes back to one thing, which is scale. As one human being, or you and your partner, or you and 2 or 3 of your friends running a business, how many platforms can you actively manage on a daily basis? And I say actively. Am I on LinkedIn? Yes. If you send me an invite, will you get a response tomorrow or even next year? Probably not. I'm on it. I get the SEO benefit. But have I got time to actively manage it? Not so much. There might be like a Twitter feed on there that's automatically updating every now and again, just to give some sort of updated content on LinkedIn. I think it's a great tool for people. I think there's too many recruiters on there, and that's probably one reason why I'm a bit shy of it and I don't hang out on it too much. But me personally, I'm probably not the best guy to ask about LinkedIn. But I do know people that use it very, very heavily. However, if all of a sudden my business and my prospects and my pipeline started drying up, which, you know, touch wood, won't happen anytime soon, I would be on LinkedIn in a heartbeat. New picture and all that, just like this. so with a LinkedIn t-shirt and like a hug me hat.
I would add though, but LinkedIn can be very valuable. I mean, even for this conference, I used it. There's been other times where I've used it. It kind of depends on the market you're in. But like you say, it can be sort of, it's definitely recruitment 3.0. But yeah, it's definitely useful in certain sectors. So my final question for you, in 3 years' time, are we still going to be talking about growth hacking as a term?
I hope not. I think growth hacking is not the best. I don't think it's a great term. I'll be honest with you, because what is growth hacking? Like, growth hacking is net, it's just the optimization of your business based on what tools are available. I saw the event spec and it said based on cloud-based tools, whether the tools are in the cloud or whether they are not in the cloud. Let's say, you know, you could even say that signing up for a hub like Google Campus or working in a shared space is a growth hack, because you get to be around other entrepreneurs, other creative people. These are all hacks, but the reality is you're looking at all the aspects of your business, like I said before, and looking at ways of optimizing it. How can I get email out effectively and cheaply? How can I listen to the market effectively and cheaply? How can I maybe collaborate with people in real terms, like in a hub, effectively and cheaply? So I think growth hacking, it's a relevant term for now, and I love the fact that it's brought all these cool people into the room, and it's going to get us all talking. But I think it's just one of those words that, like pivot and all the other words that the tech industry comes up with, it's going to come and it's going to kind of go. But the main thing is that we all try and optimize and grow our businesses and continue to collaborate like this and network and do our thing.
Raj, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, everyone.